Right. That's so funny. Like, because my kids are a little bit younger than yours. So we're like still trying to figure out the whole phone thing in general. Like, at what point do we allow them to have phones? And then there's social media, and we're like late to the party. Like a lot of my daughter's friends have phones already. And I'm like,
how old is your daughter?
She's about to be 12.
Okay.
And I'm like, nope.
That's great that she
I'm
doesn't
like,
have a phone.
nope. Right. And, but like the other thing, and the thing I'm trying to balance is like I use social media for our business. This is now my second business that like social media is like the main driver for views and attention, and it, significantly moves into revenue because of it. And so it's like a tool I'm going to want them to have. It's just figuring out how do you build the solid foundation prior to them using it, and when's the right age. But the difference between my daughter and your daughter, my older daughter is like me. Like, she is personality. She wants, where's the camera? Shine it on me. Like, she's not more reserved. She's not an introvert. So it sounds like for your daughter, it's something she wants to do and she knows the value of it. She's just more shy.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. But I will tell you, my younger one, she's 17. I just had this conversation with her a couple of weeks ago, and she was saying how we gave her a phone at the beginning of junior high. So I think she was like 11. Okay. And only because we had to, for like communication reasons. I work, at that point I worked really far, and her school was in the valley. It was like a 45-minute drive, so I needed to be able to communicate with her. And one of the things that she said just a few weeks ago, she was like, I probably could have went a year or two more without it. Like, I know that before I used to complain that, I wish I had my phone earlier, and you guys, like, all my friends have it and blah, blah, blah. But I'm glad that you guys waited, because it would have been so much worse. It's so distracting. Even if it's the harm, even if they're not being like harmed by it, they're still being distracted. And there's so many other productive things they could be doing at their age.
Right. I know it's hard having to figure this out.
Yeah.
So your life changed pretty big because of social media. Could you make that argument?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so when you just mentioned what I used to do and what you do now, what was your job before?
I still do it, actually.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Tell everybody what you're doing.
Well, I work for a university. I work as a senior financial analyst. So I've been doing that for almost 20 years now.
I thought you stopped doing that.
I want to, but there's this one piece of me that's like, should I wait until I hit the 20-year mark? Because at the 20-year mark, you get vested for like all of the health insurance plans and everything. You get it for life. Mm-hmm. So do I wait another year and get health insurance for life and just, juggle everything? Or do I quit sooner and figure it out? I don't know.
If you did what's the name of your community? The
Saving Whiz? Oh, Super Savers.
Super Savers.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you were to put all your attention towards Super Savers and content and that side of your business, would you see it multiply? Would it become bigger?
Yeah, for sure. I've been putting a lot of effort in it. I work beforehand, after, and on weekends sometimes. So I am putting a lot of time into it. I think in order for me to actually leave, I need to hire a team so that they could be working on things while I'm finishing up what I need to finish. Okay,
so as of right now on the financial business, not the university analyst, you're just you. It's DIY.
Me and one VA.
Oh, you have a VA.
Yeah.
Okay, so break it down, the amount of time you spend on your W-2 job and then the amount of time you spend on your business.
So I do my 8 hours Monday through Friday for my W-2 job. For my business, that's a tough one. I would say probably at least 6 hours, 7 hours a day.
Oh, dang. So you're doing a lot.
Yeah. But I also really care about my students. I really care about the content that I produce, and I want to make sure that it's good quality. And I feel like I've done that because a lot of people don't know that I actually work a full-time job. They think I do this full-time. And so that's a big compliment for me, because I want to make it seem that I'm not doing anything other than this, because this is my passion.
And you primarily focus on women, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so helping women get out of debt, save, invest.
Yeah.
Correct? At what year did you start doing this? 2020?
2017.
Oh, 17.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you got in and then you rode the 2020 wave.
Yeah, so I was a blogger before anything else. And then 2020 came and TikTok was like everything. And my daughter was on it. And I remember thinking, oh, maybe I can start, figuring out how I can do some finance content on here. And I remember seeing Seth's content actually. And it triggered something where I was like, oh, okay, so there are other people that are doing the same thing. Let me see if I can try it out. At that point, I had Instagram, but I wasn't really using it. Family was on there. Family was on Facebook. But TikTok, no one knew me yet. And so it was easier to get into trying different things without feeling like I'm being judged by people that know me.
Yep.
So they didn't know I actually had an account until I hit 100K followers at that point.
And so today, how many followers do you have on TikTok?
2.3 million.
And then what about Instagram?
1 million.
1 million. So 4 million, 2, 3, and 1 million.
And then on Facebook, I have 1.8 million.
Oh, you were 6, or now north of 6. Okay, so we have a big audience here. It's so interesting because I hear you on the healthcare, like I hear you, but gosh, you have a rocket ship on your under your belt, or that you're working on. Okay, so you think the plan is one more year, get health, your insurance or the healthcare for life, and then move full time into the business?
To be honest, I teeter-totter between should I wait or should I just go?
How much are you going to say? Like, how significant really is it to
It's
score?
pretty significant.
From what I've
heard,
the coverage they give you, or for the cost?
both.
Uh-huh.
So the coverage is amazing. My copays are so tiny; they're pretty much insignificant. Like, I think I pay $5 for prescriptions, like something really crazy low. But it's more that the premiums that they cover, like the university covers, I want to say like 75 or 80% of my premiums. So I pay very low and we have really good coverage. I have friends who have the same coverage I have or something similar, and they pay upwards of $2,500 per month for a family of 4. So I pay something like $300.
Oh, God.
So it's a complete game changer if I were to just wait that 1 year, and I can still grow my business and everything, but have that, it would make a big difference because I can put all that extra money straight into investing, into something else that I actually enjoy.
Got it. Okay, so let's talk about the business, or let's talk about at least what you're doing. Is there like when you're working with women, I imagine it's of all ages, or is there an age? Yeah.
Yeah, it's from college up.
College up, and is it usually single, dating, married, or all?
The majority of women that I work with are married moms, so they're busy and they have young children.
And do they usually come to you because they're in debt and trying to help get out, or is it to try to figure out more of like an offense, or is it a combo?
It's a combo. Most of the time they're coming to me because they're so frustrated. They've tried something in the past, it hasn't worked. They don't know how to control their spending. Their debt is out of control. It's like a combination of everything, but it happens so incrementally that they didn't realize it until at that point they're drowning. So they're coming to me almost as a last resort of like, I need help, or I'm going to have to go figure out how to, file for bankruptcy or something like that. So it's a combo for sure.
And then do they usually try to solve the problem first for them, or do they usually bring their like husband or partner in alongside?
No, they usually
by themselves.
Yeah, they usually do it by themselves first.
Okay, so then what's the first thing we're saying? Somebody comes to you and they're like, Gina, look, I didn't think I spent that much, and I just blinked, and I have $50,000 in debt, and I'm 50 years old, and I'm running out of time. What do I do? Like, what's the first thing you're helping them with?
At first, we have to figure out how we got here. So my very first step is we have to assess. So even in my book, there's these 3 A's that I always stand by. It's assess, address, and amplify. So when you're assessing, you have to figure out where you are and how you got here. Because if you don't know what your spending leaks are and your spending patterns, you're not going to be able to go forward and figure out how to fix those so that you can change your financial trajectory. If you're just starting and you're going to say, okay, I'm just going to start saving money because you see everybody on social media saying they're going to do the $10,000 challenge or this or that, you're not really changing patterns yet because you don't even know what your patterns are. A lot of times those things are subconscious and you don't even know you're doing them until you sit back and you actually look at everything. And the way that I have them assess is to pull the last 3 months of bank statements or credit card statements, wherever they normally spend their money, and start highlighting those categories, add them up, figure out how much you're actually spending on average within those 3 months. And I always say 3 months instead of just 1 month because you could have 1 month that's a little less or a little more, but if you do 3 months, that is a really good indication for where your patterns actually lie because you have an average of a full 90 days of spending and of decision making that you've had. So history doesn't lie, math doesn't lie. You're going to be able to see exactly what's going on so that you can fix it.
And then do you usually see consistent categories that people overspend on? And
Yes.
what's like that this one's going to be up there?
Well,
Eating out or clothes?
it's eating out, it's vacations on debt, it's clothes shopping, yes, for sure.
Vacations on debt. Like we're going to go on vacation and we like legit don't have the money to pay for it.
Right. I'm going to go on a cruise because all my friends are going. I want to go. It doesn't seem like it's that expensive, but I don't have the money right now. So I'm going to put it on a credit card and I'll deal with it later.
Dang.
But I don't want to miss out on the cruise.
Okay.
Or I don't want to miss out on this trip. The Christmas shopping also gets a little crazy because it's easy to be selfless and say, well, I'm going to put this on debt because it's not about me. It's about my daughter or it's about my best friend or whoever it is that I love. I'm doing this because I love them. And it's Christmas. I want to be able to be generous. But if you don't have the money saved up and you haven't planned ahead, then your generosity is actually it's taking you steps back. It's putting you into debt. So I find that my particular students are generous and like sacrificing in a way that actually harms them financially because they are constantly thinking of everyone else and not thinking of themselves. Most of them do not actually spend it on themselves. A lot of them spend it because they don't want their kids to miss out on the vacation. They don't want their spouse to have to not do this thing that they really want to do. So they're constantly sacrificing their finances and their stability in order for them to do all of these things.
So for something like Christmas shopping, how do you help somebody? I think I know the answer because my sister does this actually very well. How do you help somebody still be giving and put thought into a gift without overspending?
There are so many ways, actually. I love this question. So my favorite way, and something I've been talking about for a very long time, is creating a gift closet. So if you are shopping ahead of time and you're planning ahead of time, you already know the loved ones that you want to buy for, right? You know that way ahead. This isn't someone that just spur of the moment came up and you're like, okay, I'm putting them on my list. These are people you've known for a lifetime most of the time. So you know what they like, you know what they need, right? You have the entire year to do planning. You can find where the sales are. There's Black Friday sales. There's so many ways that you can save money ahead of time and then just keep those gifts for a time that you're going to present it to them. You don't have to wait until right before Christmas to buy those things. And also save the money ahead. So if I know that I'm going to spend a good $200-$300 on each person for Christmas or whatever the budget is for each person, and plan that budget ahead of time too, then I can say, okay, I have 12 months to save or I have 11 months to save. How much do I need to save per month? And put that in your budget. Budget for it. Everything is doable as long as you're planning ahead. I think the issue is that most people do it backwards. They want to fix it after the fact versus, okay, I already know this is coming up. So if I plan for it now, I don't have to be stressed out later. I can do all the things I want to do as long as I can make that plan ahead.
What is there a software or a budget tool that you like that you try to put everybody on?
No, I actually don't have a budget tool that I use other than a Google Sheets.
Okay.
And then I have my own budget planner. So that's something that I offer. The students will get that lifetime digital download if they want. And it does the formulas for you, so like it will add everything up. And I don't think that you need something fancy or something so specialized. You can literally, and I tell them this all the time, you don't want to use the budget planner, totally fine. Get a notebook and just jot it down. At least you have it somewhere, or get an Excel spreadsheet. Excel has this, I think it's called Excel Money, I think. I'm not sure exactly what the name is, but they have a financial spreadsheet that you can use, and it's super simple. It will attach to your bank account and have all the information in there. It'll create the charts for you. It'll tell you what your spending rate is. It'll tell you all of the things if you want something that's fancy. And it's not going to cost that much money if you want something like that. But I'm not a big fancy kind of person. I like the simpler, the better. So for me, I don't tell them that they have to go get an app or a specific type of spreadsheet.
Right. So for I see this a lot with the younger kids. Why am I going to save my money now when life isn't guaranteed? What am I going to save money so that I could use it when I'm old? What do you say to them?
I love that. My kids have this conversation with me, by the way.
It's all the
because
kids.
both of them, with both of them, as soon as they got any money, I was like, okay, we're opening up the investment account. We're going to do this. And they're like, but that's so long. It's so far away. And I always say the same thing. You're going to get there anyway. Time is going to pass anyway. It's better for you to do it now and not think about it and it become a habit now, because as you get older, time flies. And before you know it, you're going to get to a place where you're approaching retirement. You're approaching that age where you're not going to be able to work anymore. And you're not going to have enough money to do it. And you're going to be working much harder than if you planned, again, if you plan ahead, right? And one of the things I always show them is maybe you're not going to be able to touch it for a while. That's fine. But the excitement of going in there periodically and seeing how much it's grown and how much potential you have for your money, it actually will give you that push to keep going. So last year, my little one, the 17-year-old, we opened up an investment account for her. And that was the argument, was like, no, but I want this money for this. And that's fine. Keep a little bit in a savings account and you can start saving for that thing. But your future, is going to be really happy you did this. So we did it. And within, I think, this was in December. We're in July now. Within just these few short months, she's already made $1,500 or something like that. And she was like, oh, there's no way. She had no idea that you can see it really add up fast, because they think long-term is boring and long-term is, I'm never really going to feel the growth. But it could be exciting if you actually pay attention to what you're doing and you learn what you're saving for. I think it's such a good thing to teach kids because they don't have the patience.
Yeah, and I always thought it was so interesting, people that make the argument, why am I going to save my money? Life isn't guaranteed to me. You're fair, but if you're just playing the odds are you're actually going to live a lot longer than you think, right? Prepare for us being here till we're 80. And so when you know that that's, where the data lies and supports that we're most likely going to get there, and you can probably make the argument that for us, we're actually probably going to live a lot longer than that, right? I think that the scale is going to start sliding. So if that's the case, what are we doing here, right? Because at some point, you're going to have to be responsible. And so you're making the argument, okay, if I'm not going to do anything now, then I'm going to try to figure this out when you're 50, when you're 60, you're running out of options there, right? So I think it's, but then on the other side, I remember what it was like to be young, right? It's you're in the moment. You're not really thinking about planning for the future. And what you explained about your daughter, which is cool, she started seeing it, and then that was exciting, right? without seeing it, a lot of times the idea of investing sounds like what does that even mean? Like I'm just putting money away that I can't realize now, and like, am I ever going to experience it? And so, yeah, it's tough. It's I don't know how to get the young kids to snap out of that because it's so powerful, right? You invest a little bit now at 17, like the money your daughter's going to have at retirement age is going to be psycho, right? You're giving her time for money to keep doubling.
Yeah, I think they don't understand that concept of time because for them, everything feels like I need to have it right now. There is no such thing as like this delayed gratification, right? And I remember having this conversation with her, and this was the thing is, well, I mean, I want to be able to have fun with it now, right? And it feels like you're taking it away from them and they're never going to see it for 40 years.
Right.
But no, you can watch it grow. You can see how it actually is going to benefit you and how fast it doubles and how much you're going to enjoy this at that time. Doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to enjoy your life while you're waiting for this money to grow. No, you're enjoying your life while this is doing the work for you, so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's like, I think people have the idea that if you're investing, that means your life sucks and it's boring, right? But like, really, like we all have to make a decision. Like, when are we going to make sacrifice at what age, right? Is it going to be in our 20s and 30s? Or is it going to be in our 50s and 60s, right? And it's going to exist somewhere. But I think it's like, I look back from 20 to 30 was probably the most strict I was about spending. I was like, I would spend nothing because I had a career where I didn't know where it was going to end. There was a lot of fear involved. So I was very disciplined in my spending. And people could look at that, especially my friends, and go, dude, live a little. I look back, those years were so fun. Like, I had a blast, right? Like, it doesn't mean that by saving your life sucks. It just means that you're saying no to some things, and what's going to come after that, it's going to be yeses that you never would have dreamed of having, right? It's like going on vacation and not having the money to pay for it and putting it on debt. That's a stress you're putting on yourself while you're at that vacation, and you might not even realize it. But you can't enjoy it the way you can when you go, yeah, where do you want to go? Like, we have the money for it. We've got this asset that's paying us. Let's just let the asset pay for our vacation. It's a different game you're playing, and it's better. So like, go wait till you're 40 to do that stuff. Wait till you're 50,
For sure. You know what's funny is because social media actually will show you these beautiful destinations and people are going on these amazing trips. No one really knows behind the scenes whether that's on debt or they actually are paying for it themselves or a sponsor is paying for it. You don't know. And they look like they're enjoying their time and they're having a blast and it looks like a trip of a lifetime. But if you're putting that on debt and you're going, the first thing you're thinking about is, I got to be really careful with how much I spend on food and I really got to be careful with how much I bring home. And like, you're not enjoying the moment at all. Like you're saying, like you're not present at all. At that point, you're already thinking about what's going to happen when you get back. So what's the point of even going if you're not going to be able to fully 100% enjoy the moment? And I think that especially with vacations, if it's on debt, it defeats the purpose. The reason why you're on vacation is for you to completely unwind and relax and have a great time. And I personally don't feel like I can have a great time if I feel like I'm ruining something on the back end while I'm having fun here and everybody's watching me enjoy. It's almost like I'm psyching myself out. It's not true enjoyment.
Do you want people using credit cards, or are you indifferent about credit cards?
I actually personally like to use credit cards as long as, and I tell this to my students all the time, as long as they are paying it off at the end of every month and they are putting the things that are on the credit card need to be things that were budgeted for. No unexpected expenses should be on your credit card. Then I think it's fine. It depends on how responsible you are with your credit. So I'll tell you, when I first started using credit cards, I was in my teen years, actually. I was 18. I went to college, and literally the first week, they were passing them out like lollipops. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. I have 2 new credit cards. And I remember calling my mom up and being like, Mom, I just got 2 credit cards. And she goes, congratulations. And that was it. She didn't tell me anything about credit cards, how to use them. And maybe it was because she didn't really know how to use them well. And of course, as a teenager, I have these new credit cards and I have all this quote unquote free money. I was like, okay, I can eat out, I can go get a laptop, I can do this, I can do that. I think within like 6 months, I had maxed out these credit cards. And I was only working a part-time job. And then eventually I ended up leaving that part-time job, and these credit cards went to collections, and it was a whole mess because I didn't realize, wait, you actually have to pay these things back, and it adds up quickly, right? All these little incremental charges that you keep making are actually taking from the credit card, and you're borrowing the money that is not your money. So I learned the hard way how bad it can get if you're not responsible with your credit. And as soon as I started learning how to use credit the right way, so many things changed. The way that I budget my money changed. The way that I use certain credit cards changed. The perks, how I can add those perks to the enjoyment of my life. All of those things make a huge difference when you know how to use your credit cards.
Yeah, and I think there's the one thing that you don't talk about a lot is the protection you get with a credit card. Like this happened to me recently. I never use a debit card, but I would always just have one in my wallet just in case. And we were out eating one night, and my wallet like fell out of my pants, right? So it was like sitting on the floor. I didn't think anything of it. And I don't totally know what happened, but as we left the restaurant within an hour, every single credit card, including my debit card, was being flagged, right? Flight here, flight there, flight there. It was like $20,000 just like that, collectively. And I was like, okay, called each credit card, and every credit card was like, okay, cool. Like, we'll handle it, and never had to worry about it again. The debit card, they send me like 15 purchases, right? And I'm like, I didn't make these purchases. So they basically hit me back a month later, and they go, sorry, we couldn't prove it, so you're paying for it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I have proof of where I was. And so be careful with debit cards for that reason. Like, it's not the same as credit. On debit, they're spending your money, and the bank is not hooking you up and covering that if somebody's fraudulent with it.
That's such a good point. Actually, that happened to me, not the same way, but I was at a grocery store, and I think I was in my early 20s. I went to a grocery store, came back, and then within a couple of days, I started seeing all of these subscription purchases, and I didn't know what they were, and they were on my debit card. This was right before I got credit cards, and no, this was right after I got credit cards, but they were already maxed out, so I didn't have any credit. I had to use my debit card, and I don't know what they did, but when they swiped my card, I think they took my number, and the bank was able to give me my money back, but it took 3 weeks. They put my entire bank account on hold. I didn't have a debit card to use. I didn't have a way to go to the ATM to get money. I was literally out of money. Like, they had frozen my account, and it was terrible. Like, you don't have any other way of paying bills. I had to go back and tell all all of my providers, like all of my bill providers, to delay the payment or to put it on hold, because if they tried to put it through, that account wasn't working right now. Like, they were just bouncing them back, and I was getting late fees, and it was a mess. So you're absolutely right. Credit cards are much easier in that aspect, because when fraud happens, you have so much more protection.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I won't touch a debit card now. Like, it sits like under the drawer, under the safe. Like, I don't want anyone being able to get access to it.
Yeah.
So one thing I notice about, I think this is more specific to like somebody like Ramsey, because he's so anti-credit, and because like his whole thing is like get you out of debt, that you see a lot of people that make it through his course and they struggle now moving over to the offense, right? Like, if you look at you being in bad debt as defense, no debt as neutral, and then investing on is the offense, they really struggle with the offense side. How do you work with your students in relation to, we're going to get you out of debt, and then we're going to start putting you to work? We're going to start getting some investments on the board.
Yeah, so one of my biggest things is I don't want them to cancel something in order for them to gain something else. So we're not going to cancel credit because you're in debt. What we're going to do is we're going to work on a debt payment plan first, but also train you on how you're going to use your credit correctly, right? And at the same time, while we're budgeting, we're not going to cancel savings. We're not going to cancel life. We're going to integrate all of that. I think it's really important that as people are relearning personal finance, and a lot of them didn't really learn how to use personal finance except trial by fire, that every single category, every single piece, savings, debt, credit usage, investing, all of that needs to be touched on while you're working on it because it's one big picture. So I know a lot of people will go from step, like they'll start with budgeting first and then they'll do savings and they'll do debt payment or whatever, and they can go down the list. I feel like if you're not doing all of that when you're getting started, like if your plan doesn't include all of that and isn't fully inclusive of all of the different pieces, you're really missing out. I don't want them to not invest because they're paying off debt. You can pay off debt and still invest as long as you're doing it responsibly. Like if you have high interest debt, you have 18% credit cards. No, pay that first. And then when you get to your student loans and you have 4% or 5%, start investing. You need to start putting money there. So every piece, I think, plays into, like, they all intertwine. So I'm not a big fan of just do one thing and put everything else on hold. I would rather them actually see how everything works together and becomes a well-oiled machine while they're fixing their finances.
If somebody has multiple credit cards and they're in debt on multiple cards, would you have them start paying off the highest interest first or the smallest dollar amount first?
This is controversial, I know. Highest interest rate first. 100%. I don't care what the balance of the card is because your highest interest rate is where you're paying the most money in interest, and I don't want you to have to pay more than you need to. I know, like, I used to listen to Dave Ramsey for a while when I first tried to get out of debt myself, and I felt like a lot of it just did not fit for me. And this was one of those things where it's like the smallest balance first didn't make sense for me, even though I'm a big dopamine hit person. Like I want those quick wins, but I don't know. There's something about having quick wins versus actually saving real money that just rubs me the wrong way. I don't understand the idea of paying the small balance first if I'm not at the end of the day saving the most amount of money. My job as a saving whiz, I call myself saving whiz for a reason, is to save you the most money. So it wouldn't make sense for me to do it any other way. I feel
that. Like, you know, I have partners that are CFAs and they're CFPs, like they are financial minded people. And they're always like biggest interest first, like get rid of the biggest interest. But I guess where I know why it lands controversial, because I think it actually is probably split, where there's some people that they need to see something happen for encouragement to get them to finish. So if you're going to finish your, what do you want to call it? Debt destruction, right? You're going to pay off all your debt. If you're going to finish in both scenarios, yeah, get rid of the highest interest first, of course. But if you run the risk of not like finishing the job, well, just do whatever it's going to take to finish it.
For sure. And I always say that's always a disclaimer, even with my students. Like, this is the way that I recommend you do it. But if you decide that it's easier for you to do it the other way, that's totally fine, because personal finance is totally personal. So if it works better for you, whatever's going to work to get you to the finish line, totally okay. But if you're looking to save the most amount of money you can, then it's always highest interest rate first, because it's not only saving you interest, it's also accelerating your progress. So you're going to, because you're saving more on interest, you're able to actually finish paying off your debt faster. But again, there are people who need those small milestones to keep going, and that's totally okay too.
Yeah, it seems like it's a little different, but at least when you were saying that, it feels comparable to the conversation about owning and renting.
Yeah.
And everybody's saying renting is a waste of money, but you can make the argument that if you're renting but you're buying investment properties, then that's better than just owning a primary. But the caveat is the same. That only works if you're buying the investment properties. If you're not buying the investment properties, then yeah, the money that you're paying into your rent is not, you're not paying anything off. You're not having any type of ownership. So I hear you on that. As far as debt goes, do you spend time teaching women the difference between good debt and bad debt?
Yes.
Do you find that most of them know that, or most of them, is that a new concept?
I think it's a new concept for a lot of people. A lot of people think debt is debt, and there's no such thing as good and bad debt. And I think once we start having this conversation and we start talking about what good debt looks like, it changes their mindset, and it completely changes the picture of what finances actually look like. Because most people come into personal finance and think, I'm going to fix my finances by paying off all my debt, never getting into debt again, saving money in a savings account, and just call it a day, right? And that, at the end of the day, never works out to what they expect it to do. And then they're looking at everyone around them and thinking, what did I do wrong? I thought this was the way. And there's so much more to personal finance than just those small, simple components.
So why do you think on the education side, like where do we go wrong when we're talking about finance? Why isn't it taught in a better way in school? Why is that something that we all use, and yet it feels like the majority of people have no clue what's going on? What are we doing here?
Well, I don't think that it's really discussed that much in school. That's one of the biggest issues. I know that I was not taught anything about personal finance, not from my parents and not from school. Whatever I saw my parents do, that's kind of what I learned about it, but no one actually had that conversation with me. Well, that's one big piece of it. And I'm glad that now it's starting to become a prevalent topic, and we're starting to actually advocate for that to be in schools, because I think it's really important, and it should be taught in every school.
Yeah, I think we're about to vote on that. I think that on the ballot is financial literacy being required in high school.
Yes.
Which is good. Now, I hope they teach the right things, but it's better than nothing, I think.
It's definitely better than nothing. I just hope, like you said, that they teach the right things so they don't also then perpetuate this idea that credit is bad.
Oh, yeah. If all the high schoolers finish high school and they think they're financially literate and they think all debt is bad, we've got a big problem.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
As far as because you have young kids and you're on social, so you probably see different views based on probably the generation, I imagine. For the younger generation, it seems like their outlook on just money and investing and owning a home seems dimmer than maybe the X generation or boomer. They seem like they are not as hopeful that they get to participate and make money, etc. First off, do you see that?
I do.
Second, what do you do about that? Do you think it's valid? Do you think it's valid for the time and it'll get better? Do you think things need to change?
There's a lot of variables that come into play with that. I do see that there is a much harder landscape for them to have to navigate, because with social media and with entrepreneurship being so prevalent now, and with people making tons of money in different ways, there's a lot of opportunity. But then there's also this idea that there's flooded markets everywhere, and they're nervous to choose a career path, and everything becomes much more difficult when it comes to making those decisions. I do think, though, that when you're young and you think that the world right now is just everything is against you, every opportunity is not really an opportunity, it's a challenge, then your mindset actually plays a trick on you. I always tell my kids this: what you're doing now, in 10 years, you're going to feel it. So if you are doing things that just feel easy, and you're doing them just because you just can get away with it and it's okay now, in 10 years, you're really going to feel the pinch of all of those decisions that you made now. if you take the harder route, and if you look for opportunities to sustain your growth financially, and you actually steward the money that you bring in, you're going to have a much easier time in 10 years. Because when I was in my 20s, it was terrible. And a lot of it is I felt like I was a victim to my circumstance, right? And a lot of kids these days, my kids included, feel like they're a victim to their circumstance. And when you have that mentality, it's hard for you to see solutions. So I think it's really important that people, especially if they're young, they need to get out of the mindset of this happened to me. And it's like, okay, no, what are some solutions that can help me get out of where I am now? Whether this happened to me or I caused it, doesn't matter. At this point, I need to figure out how to move forward, how to get to a better place, whether it's financially, whether it's career-wise, whatever it is that they're working on. I think the one thing that I feel badly for is the way that young people feel when it comes to owning real estate. A lot of them don't feel like they're ever going to get to a place where they can afford it. Especially in California, the prices have gone up significantly. And I feel badly for that because there are still ways that you can own real estate. I just think that the traditional ways are a little harder, and they still don't have the knowledge or the education to know how to get into real estate in more creative ways. That part is a little tricky because, again, they don't teach you that. And most people, even if they know a little bit, they don't know enough to get them to the next level. And so that part I think is really needed. There's got to be more education with that for our youth, because a lot of them feel like it's a dead end. They're not going to go there.
Yeah, I hear you on the real estate side. I think is frustrating because it's like our real estate market should not be what it is right now. Like we should have seen a full-blown meltdown in almost every asset class is what we should have saw when the Fed did that to the interest rates. The only reason we didn't is because we just didn't build, which that's not how a free market works, right? Like when there's pent-up demand, you're supposed to create more products. You're supposed to build more real estate. And so I feel from there 100%. The unfortunate part is, and kind of what you were mentioning, for the outliers, the ones that like will go kind of outside of the comfort zone or like the masses, there's totally ways to do it. But most people don't operate like that. Most people operate in more of a conventional, this is what I'm supposed to do, and everyone does it one way. And that way is tough right now. It really is. The outlook part is interesting because like what I found, and this happened from skateboarding, was because like we were dealing with fear, it would really get in your way if you wanted to do a trick, if you were scared of something, right? And so like I almost had to learn how to lie to myself. Right? You could do that. When I didn't think I could do it, you could do it. You could do it. And what's crazy is how fast your brain starts believing the lie, right? And then even there was a point in my life where like I had become very negative. Like everything I was pissed off about, something would happen, I'd complain. And I remember like trying to make a big shift in my life. Like I was kind of miserable. I was like, this isn't cool. And so I started working at changing habits, right? And I remember doing this exercise where every single day I would find one good thing, right? Like something would happen and I'd find the good in it. That was like my exercise. And I remember there were some days where like there was nothing good. Like it felt like I had to lie to myself and say, well, at least you woke up, which is a good thing. But like I had to like go there. And then it didn't take long to where I no longer recognized the bad in things. It was like almost like I had reprogrammed myself to be thankful or to look at the good in a bad situation. And it's crazy how much further that outlook takes you, right? And so I would so recommend people like lie to yourself. Like if you don't think you could do something, tell yourself over and over, yes, I can, right? If your situation sucks, like, yeah, find a way to tell yourself it's not, it could be worse, right? Because what you're going to find is 5-10 years from now, you're going to be in a whole different situation. But if you don't do that, 10 years is going to go by and you're going to be in the same situation. And that's not good.
I 100% agree. My philosophy is things are going to go bad anyway, right? Life is always going to be lifing. In one way or another, you're going to have negatives show up. But if you're constantly focused on the negatives, what ends up happening is the focus becomes a magnifying glass and all you see are those negatives. And then you can't get yourself out of it to get to the next place, right? So if you're looking at the positives and you're, like you said, even I'm breathing today, right? I am up. I woke up this morning. Those things start to flip your way of thinking, that even if a negative happens, you find a solution to move away from those negatives and you keep moving towards those positives. Everything that you look for, you will find. So if you're looking for the negatives, you will definitely find them. If you're looking for the positives, you'll find those too. And opportunity sometimes comes in those negatives. Like the challenges that I had in my life, if it weren't for those challenges, I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I've had. Because if you have an easy life, those opportunities, sometimes you don't even notice, you miss them. But when you're in a really big challenge, sometimes it's good to be grateful for those challenges because they actually end up refining you for the next opportunity. And I think those holding periods are so important because they really do, they take you to a place where you're like in the fire, you're in the furnace, you're being refined, and then boom, you're in the next level. You can't do this without that.
100%. 100%. Did you see there was a video that was going viral about somebody who was like, what would you rather do? Oh, no. He said, would you take $1 million from me if you only were to have it for a day and then the next day you didn't wake up? That was your last day on this earth. And he's like, everyone would not take the $1 million, right?
Right.
So you are now valuing you waking up as more valuable than $1 million that day. Yet, and I pitched it to you as like, sometimes I just had to tell myself, thank you for waking up, right? But there's a lot of value there that we don't highlight, right? And then the as you were talking about the valleys and the refining fire, I feel that. That was like, when I look back at the most pivotal moments in my life, it was always the worst moments in my life. And those kind of valleys ended up resulting in huge amounts of blessing that came after. It was just painful going through it. And so what I think it's important to mention, probably more of the youth, is if you haven't gone through a very hard time yet, get through it. Look for the opportunity, and what's going to happen is you will experience a better, stronger you. And then that's more encouraging going forward in life, knowing that you're going to have more of those seasons. You don't have the like, oh gosh, don't let it happen. It happens. It hurts always. But your outlook is, okay, this is going to be painful. And what am I going to learn? And how am I going to get through it? And who am I going to become afterward? And that's actually pretty exciting. It's just a very flip of the script.
Yeah. It's almost like looking forward to the failures, because those failures and those hardships are actually what's going to get you to a better outlook. I just heard a video about, the Inside Out 2 movie. Right?
Yeah,
and they were talking about joy. And they were saying, if you notice, joy is all yellow. Like all the emotions are one color, right? Joy is all yellow, but she has blue hair. Because you can't have full joy without a little sadness, right? So there's that mix. You can't really enjoy the success that you're going to have if you haven't went through the fire of failure first, because you won't know what the sweetness of success feels like or tastes like until you've had that. And sometimes people, I know with my kids it's like this, and especially the younger crowd, they want to enjoy the success without the hardship that it often takes to get there. These overnight successes that people look at, it took 6, 7, 10 years to get to. Nobody looks at the behind the scenes. They always look at just, oh, I wish I had that. Well, in order for you to have that, you would have had to do all of these things that other person had to do too, all the things they had to endure. So I now actually look forward, and when I do go through a challenge, it's something I'm super thankful for, because I feel like I'm being tried for the next stage, for the next level, for the next phase of my life. And I'm almost excited for what's going to come out of it, like you said.
Right.
It's something to look forward to.
It's a really good point. And it's not all kids, but you look at the trust fund kids, or you look at the rich kids that just parents gave them everything. 9 times out of 10, they're miserable, ungrateful, shitty people. You know, not always, but the majority of them are. And then you see the person who like built something from nothing worth $1 billion in a Ford truck, shorts and a t-shirt. You would never know he had anything or she had anything. Like when you have gone through the difficulty of it, you respect it. You value it more, right? That's like anything in life, right? If it's given to you, you don't really put a lot of value on it. If you had to earn and grind and sweat to get it, well, you remember all the hard work that it took to get there, and it holds a higher value, right? That's a really good point you made.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Okay, so what's next? Is the plan one more year and then all in on is Money Whiz?
Oh, Super Savers.
Super Saver. Is that the plan?
I don't know yet. I keep going back and forth. So I think as of now, I'm kind of playing it by ear to see what happens by the end of this year. And if I get to a place where I feel like I can put everything into just Super Savers and let go of my 9 to 5, I may leave. It's been something I've been thinking about for 2 years, and I'm a very slow mover when it comes to this, because it's just something that this is probably the only part of my life that still has that scarcity mindset piece, where it's like, I don't want to let go.
Right.
I've been there so long. It's so comfortable. I know what I'm doing, all of the things. But I'm also trying to push myself.
You're making more money from that than your W-2, I imagine.
Yeah.
Significantly more, I'd expect. Yeah. So, okay. All right.
I'm telling you, it's just that mindset, right?
Yeah.
It's the mindset that always like makes the biggest difference with the decisions. Because, yeah, I am making more money, but a part of me is like, but what happened? Now it's just all reliant on me.
Correct.
Right? It's not.
That's correct. But on the other end, if I were to give you you're making $500,000 here and 100 here, let's just say. You ditch the 100 and the 500 could turn into 1.5. Would you ditch the 100 for an extra million? Of course you would.
100%.
All of us would, right? That's kind of what we're talking about here, right? Like you have already experienced that you have a higher ability to make money and grow wealth when it's yours and you're driving it and it's your business, right? But yeah, the for an entrepreneur, there's no stability. The comfort is gone, the fallback, the cushion. It's a wild ride, right? But that wild ride can result in much more return.
Yeah. I mean, I have already started taking plans to exit. So one of my biggest milestones that I wanted to do before moving on was buying our second house, which we just did. So that was a big deal for me because I wanted to make sure that the W-2 money was what they were looking at and not my actual job, or not my actual business. So, and they did. I did not put Saving Whiz in any of the paperwork for that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it was amazing, actually. And it was so funny because I remember having this conversation with my husband. He's like, we should probably wait a little bit before we buy the second house. And I'm like, listen, I can't reasonably plan to quit my job until we've bought the second house because I want to get to that level first before I exit. So when we bought the house, I was like, okay, now it's countdown, right? So I'm at that place, but a part of me is still fighting with that little scarcity part. But I'm getting there. I am inching towards the idea of leaving completely and doing my own thing, and that's it. It's just so hard sometimes to get out of your comfort zone, which we've been talking about this entire time.
All right,
I should really practice what I preach.
Everybody watching this, give us your thoughts. Should Gina run this thing out for another year, or should she go all in on her business? Where can people find you?
I'm all over social media. So on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Saving Whiz. I think TikTok's the only one that's Saving Whiz Gina, but everything else is Saving Whiz WHIZ. I also have my website, savingwiz.com, and yeah, I'm everywhere.
Okay, so if you're a woman and you're struggling with debt, just want to get better at investing, managing your money as a whole, go see Gina, and please give your feedback. We want to encourage her that she's got something special here. At least now I'm putting in my stance on it. And if she's got something special, this is her opportunity to go in on it.
We'll have to have a countdown then.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.